by my ass.
I'm only 4. Bonjour, Monsieur Pussycat.
Cracking toast, Robert.
Start spreading the news.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the short podcast about short films. I'm your host, and we're discussing the Academy Award for Best Animated Short. Today's episode is about the 67th year of the award at the 71st Academy Awards, which celebrates the films of 1998, which is my birth year. So we've gotten so far that we've gotten to the parts where I was alive for them. That's kind of it's impressive for me, but also just kind of scary. Anyway, today's guest is a very good friend of mine and a Tom Ripley impersonator. Please welcome Isaac. Hello, Isaac.
Hi, that was a good introduction. Thank you.
I try to add a little fun in there, but yes, welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here. I'm excited. I was just complaining about how no one ever asked me to be on podcasts, and you pulled through for me. I was like, wow, thank you.
Maybe somebody will put you on a podcast that lets you gush about Tom Cruise for a little bit. But
God, that would be probably the worst thing ever because I would be holding that person hostage ultimately.
Oh no, it'd be amazing. I would pay to listen to you talk about Tom Cruise for like 5 hours. It'd be a fascinating lecture. But yes, welcome to the show. But we're not talking about Tom Cruise today. We are talking about the Best Animated Short Oscar category. But tell us, what is your familiarity with the Best Animated Short category overall?
Very little. Like I have seen short films. I mean, besides the obvious like Pixar stuff. I mean, I grew up watching a lot of those like DVD compilations of like old timey animation, like 30s stuff.
Nice.
But when it comes to like the actual like Oscars, all my knowledge comes from you basically tweeting about it.
Nice. Thank you. I'm glad you read my tweets.
Oh yeah, that's actually why I started kind of knowing what was going on. And then as I was preparing for this, I mentioned it to my boyfriend, and he was like, "Oh my God, I love that category." I was like, "I did not know that about you." So he used to apparently watch them all the time, so he knows way more than me.
Oh, nice. Maybe I'll invite him on.
He'd have fun, probably.
Ask him like what are some of his favorite shorts like after this. I'm curious.
Yeah, I'll have to follow up with him. I think I asked him the same thing, but I can't remember right now. But yeah, he's definitely follow up. He's been watching him for a while and kind of lost track of him the past couple of years. But since I mentioned it, he was like, "Oh, we should start watching him together." I was like, "Yeah, that'd be fun."
Yeah, it's one of my favorite categories just because of how easy it is to watch all of these. Like just because like pretty much all of them are available easily online, and most of them are less than 10 minutes. It's just like there's over 300 nominees, but it's so easy to get through them all.
Yeah, and I don't know. There's something about short films in general that I do appreciate. Like my familiarity with them tends to be more live action, but that's also because I minored in Spanish and French, and they used to make us watch Spanish and French short films all the time,
Nice.
to like learn languages. And so there's a certain, I guess the brevity of short films can really make them feel even more impactful when they're really good.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like you only have like 7 minutes to say something poignant, and they do it. And it's like, wow, oh my God, this is something poignant in that 7 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's truly like its own art form. And it's really impressive when you see great short films. Like I watched Creep Show last night, like the George Romero movie. And it's just like some of those in there are just so good. Like there's one with Ted Danson and Leslie Nielsen, and it's just amazing. Anyway, I just had that on my mind. Anyway, we've rambled long enough. Let's get into these nominees. This year has 5. Our first nominee and the year's winner is Bunny, directed by Chris Wedge. This is the first and only nomination for Wedge, and the first nomination for Blue Sky Studios, the old animation studio for 20th Century Fox that got shut down once Disney got a hold of it. This is also the first computer animated short film not made by Pixar to win in this category. The story of Chris Wedge and Blue Sky is actually a bit of a parallel to that of Pixar. He got his start studying film at Purchase College and got hired at Magi, a computer tech company that had its own physics engine and wanted to use it to make commercials. Their work got noticed by Disney in the late 70s, and they ended up working on the movie Tron and developing the graphics for that film, animating nearly half of the CG you see in it. After Tron, Disney continued their partnership by starting development on an adaptation of Where the Wild Things Are that would mix 2D and 3D animation. Magi did the backgrounds and camera movements, while Disney had their animators Glenn Keane and John Lasseter direct the 2D portions. While the test was successful, Disney decided not to invest as it was deemed too expensive to pursue. Just some context, it wouldn't be long after this that John Lasseter gets fired from Disney and joins Pixar to work on shorts with them. Magi continued to work with Disney until the company was bought by a Canadian company, VidMax, and a lot of the Magi team left. A few of them, including the man of the hour Chris Wedge, went on to form Blue Sky Studios. Again, the company mainly focused on making commercials and were occasionally hired for some extra CG work in films, but Chris Wedge started to work on a short film to show the power of their CG engine called CGI Studio. That short film would eventually be today's nominee. The idea got its start when Chris Wedge was vacationing in the mountains and got inspired by the wildlife he saw out there. From there, it grew. Wedge started developing a main bunny character, basing its mannerisms off his aunt. It was eventually able to get a story down and knew the film he wanted to make. But he had to wait for the technology to catch up to his ideas, specifically the technology that replicated light physics called radiosity. It's an incredibly intensive process to mimic natural light, but it was necessary for this short. Chris Wedge and Blue Sky simply had to wait for the technology to arrive, and the film was made as soon as it was available. And one last note, I will talk more about the history of Blue Sky in the future, or as they get more nominations, but I'll just finish up Chris Wedge's part in it. He would work at Blue Sky all the way up to its closure, and he ended up directing Blue Sky's first two features, Ice Age and Robots, and was a producer on a majority of Blue Sky films from then on, only stepping into the director's chair for 2013's Epic. He also directed his first live-action film, 2017's Monster Trucks, and my favorite part of his career is the fact that he voices the character of Scrat from the Ice Age franchise in every single appearance. The Ice Age movies, Scrat's individual short films, the video games, even the character's appearances on Family Guy and The Simpsons. He is truly a man of many talents. Nowadays, it seems like Chris Wedge is working on another film, now at Annapurna Animation, which took on a lot of Blue Sky animators when the studio shut down, even finishing the film Nimona, which was thought to be dead. The new film is called FOO, which is an acronym for Fish Out of Water without the W, and is about the first fish to go on land, and is apparently a way for Wedge to get back to his roots as an animator. But back to Bunny. The film is about an elderly rabbit trying to bake a cake. However, she is being pestered by a moth. She puts the moth outside, but it breaks into the house, and she ends up killing the moth and baking it into the cake. While she waits by the oven, however, strange things happen, and a portal appears inside the oven. Isaac, what did you think of Bunny?
I actually really liked it. I saved it for last because it was the winner. So it was the very last one I watched. And I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. Um, I I will say, and I messaged you this, the whole time the film was playing, I was like, I really like the music for this film, the short film.
Mhm.
It sounds like Tom Waits, and someone needs to let him know that someone's stealing his whole style. And then the credits rolled and Tom Waits started singing. I was like, oh my God, it was Tom Waits this whole time.
Yeah. And as I told you, it's like when I was picking the guest for this episode, I literally just looked up on Twitter the term Tom Waits and saw who said his name the most, and it was you. So I was just like, hey.
All the Toms in my life are crazy. It's me.
But yeah, the short, what did you think?
Yeah, it really took a turn I wasn't expecting. It's like, again, what I was saying earlier with how I appreciate how short films can be so poignant in such a short amount of time. And Bunny's not necessarily like this groundbreaking, life-changing thing, but I thought it was a very sweet ending. It was very unexpected. Like my jaw kind of dropped. It's like, oh my God. um, but I thought that, firstly, it's interesting that this is the first computer animated film not directed by Pixar that won, best animated short. But also just like I felt it was sweet. It had like a genuine heart to it, like a genuine kind of like emotional reflection that isn't necessarily present in some of the earlier short films because just it's like, ooh, look at the technology. The technology is so cool. But this one is like, oh, there's also this kind of sweet ending, this bittersweet ending.
Mhm.
Also,
Yeah, it's like while the Pixar films are great. Like I love many of them. It's like I feel like they don't really focus as much on their stories as something like this really does. As it's like with the other ones in this category, we just have like Luxo Jr., which is just a lamp bouncing on a ball. We have Tin Toy, which is just a little toy running from a baby.
right.
And then we have Jerry's Gay, which is just an old man playing chess by himself. Which that one they rarely actually start to try and get a story in there. But this one, this has a more developed story than any of those.
Yes,
Does.
it
And
definitely does.
uh
Yeah, I used to when I was growing up, my uncle had like a DVD of like all the Pixar shorts up to a certain year. So my sister and I used to watch them, right? So I'm familiar with all like the Pixar shorts again up to a certain point.
mhm.
Um, and so yeah, I think it's definitely a true statement about this film because when I was watching it, I was like, okay, Bunny gets mad at Moth. All right. And then it was like, oh, now we've got like this weird Sweeney Todd tilt to it where we're baking a living being in a pie. And then it just ends up being this movie about like grief and death and like moving on. And it was like, oh my God, okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah, it's like if Pixar had made this, it would have ended like when the bunny like bakes them off into the cake. Hey, but then it's just like then we get the oven, the portal inside the oven, and it's just like you're trying to figure out like what the hell's even going on. But then it's like as it goes on, you see the moth is alive again, and it's like then the bunny turns into a moth as she flies through the portal, and that's like, and then you see the ending is they show you the wedding picture that she looks at the beginning, and then it just connects everything. It's like this is her passing on, and it's like the moth was her husband, and it's just like it's all very sweet. It makes you want to rewatch the short again. It also kind of makes you feel bad for the moth a lot because she's just trying to kill it the whole time.
Yeah, no, I really appreciated I am very much a person who watches movies for more like the literary analysis angle than, like the technical stuff. And so I do appreciate Bunny a lot for providing that, especially so late in the game. I love it when like it hits you at the very end. I love that. It's like,
Hmm.
oh my God, was this the whole time? And so yeah, like, you could probably now like analyze her resistance to the moth in a number of ways, right?
Yeah.
Is like the moth her husband? Is the moth's representative of death? Is the moth like an angel? Like she they're winged creatures who fly towards the light or whatever.
Hmm.
um
Yeah. It also just makes you kind of think about moths in a way. It's just like that you don't really think about because like moths are just like annoying creatures in real life too. But then it's just
yes.
like think about this. It's like damn, maybe maybe moths are just all the people I killed. Who knows?
Oh no. But no, yeah, because when you I was watching it too, my thought was kind of like, yeah, I hate moths, fuck moths, this is so true, and then it was like, oh God.
Uh, it truly is just funny though that she ends up baking the moth into the cake. It's like I kind of wish she did like we ended up a bit longer before getting to the portal. It's like where she's like eating the cake and then the portal appears. It's just like
And the portal part, I'm sorry.
no, you go ahead. I was done.
I was gonna say that the portal part is interesting too because she's literally crawling into an oven. So you're like,
Yeah.
is this like a suicide or is this supposed to be just
Yeah, like
representative?
at first I was thinking it's like, oh, is there a Sylvia Plath thing going on here? But
Yeah.
it's I don't think so. I think it's just like that's just her way of traveling.
Yes,
Like
no, I agree with that too.
yeah, she doesn't. She not that I know the bunny personally, but I don't think she would be trying to kill herself.
Yeah, it seems kind of dark for a movie that does end on a pretty sweet note. So,
Mhm. Though it's
and also,
certainly a way you could read it. I could see.
yeah, yeah, for sure, you can definitely read it, especially because she seems so like just grumpy beforehand. It's like, yeah, she's just ending it, but I don't like the suicide interpretation because again, I feel like it's very sweet. Another thing that's sweet to me too, and not that this isn't necessarily narratively relevant, but I'm pretending it is. Um, like when the credits roll and it says, the composer, it says Tom Waits, but it also, credits his wife, Catherine, sorry, Kathleen Brennan as well. And those two are very like a soulmate kind of situation going on. So I feel like that added kind of a little more sweetness to it. That
Hmm.
it's just like, oh, husband and wife who make awesome music made the music for this short film about, like this old bunny being reunited with her husband who had passed away at some undisclosed point before the short film.
Hmm.
Um, just sweet, sweet all
Yeah,
together.
it was nice seeing like both of them credited. It's like not just Tom Waits, but then again, they probably worked on it together, so it's great. It's like a fun
Yeah.
little husband and wife project together. It's like, yeah, I wonder how they got in contact with him though. Like, I wonder if whether like Chris Wedge was already friends with Tom Waits, or if they were just had the resources to call him up and be like, "Hey, you want to work on this short film?"
Yeah, no, I literally wondered that too. And Tom Waits, another thing I like about him a lot is that he will just make the most random appearances in movies. Like he will just like amount of times I've been watching something and Tom Waits just appear. I'm like, oh my God, why is Tom Waits here? So I don't know. There must have been some kind of industry connection. And but it's even more interesting that he got Tom Waits to do the music, so it's like not just, hey, can you appear in my short film, but like, can you do the score for my short film? Um,
Yeah.
I really like that part.
Also, I just made a connection that I just thought about now. So like there's this a like people make jokes about the movie Robots all the time. And it's like one of the things that people like to point out about it is that it randomly features Tom Waits Underground in the movie. As just like,
Oh my
this is
God.
why.
You're right. I didn't even think about that.
It's just like the guy who made it is friends with Tom Waits. So
I will say, sorry, it's not necessarily like relevant to what
go ahead.
we're specifically talking about. I'm the number one robots defender. I swear to God, I will unironically dial on the defending robots hill. I love them.
I feel like I know so many people who absolutely go crazy for the movie Robots. I have not seen it since I was a very young child, so I don't remember a damn thing. But I very much respect the people who go hard for it.
I saw it in theaters when it came out. I actually remember seeing it, but I rewatched it a few years ago, and I was like, "This movie is based. I love this movie." And I always think like if I had kids, I would make them watch Robots like as early as possible.
I definitely need to give it another watch. Like I think it'd be a fun time.
It's fun. I really liked it a lot. I mean, I think it's funny, but also I think uh narratively it's good too. So
Mhm. Any other thoughts about Bunny?
no, I appreciate Bunny. I really like Bunny a lot. It's a very sweet like short film to end on. I was really worried it was going to disappoint me, and it wasn't disappointing. So I was like, "Yay, Oscars! That was a good choice."
We love the Oscars whenever they pick good movies.
Yeah, it's like you did it your job right for once. Good job.
But yes, we'll move on to our second nominee, which is The Canterbury Tales, directed by Jonathan Meyerson, with individual segments directed by Ida Zyablikova, Ashley Potter, Dave Antrobus, Mick Graves, and Joanna Quinn. This is the first and only nomination for Meyerson, as well as producer Christopher Grace, no relation to beloved actor Topher Grace. There isn't too much I can say about this one. Meyerson and Grace are pretty sparse when it comes to biographical info, and the Canterbury Tales themselves are such a major historical text that it's almost impossible to say anything about them, but I'll still try. Meyerson is the only one I could find any significant info on. He's mainly known as a writer, getting noticed first for a few plays he wrote, then moving up into TV and radio, most notably with the radio miniseries Number 10, which is a political satire involving a fictional prime minister written for BBC Radio 4. And before Canterbury Tales, Meyerson was also involved with another animated anthology, writing for the series Testament, the Bible in Animation, which similarly tells different Bible stories in various animation styles. That series was a success, even winning an Emmy for achievement in animation. And I think Meyerson was able to say, hey, what if we did that, except with something newer and fresher, the Canterbury Tales? Beyond the Oscar nominee, Meyerson has also written a couple of books, gotten involved in local politics, and even had a major scandal. His wife, Julie Meyerson, had a running article in The Guardian called Living with Teenagers, written anonymously and providing a frank look at parenting and the challenges of it. After 2 years of writing the column, she publicly releases the book The Lost Child, which wasn't anonymous and wrote about her son's addiction to weed and how it caused him to be violent, and the parents' eventual decision to kick their 17-year-old son out of their house. When this book was released, people connected the dots, and eventually Meyerson herself confirmed that she was also the author of Living with Teenagers and immediately stopped writing the column. There was much controversy not only about her and Jonathan's decision to kick their son out of the house, but also the ethics of publishing your private affairs for the public to read and gawk at. Jonathan ended up writing an article defending his wife, and Jake Meyerson, who was 20 at the time of the book's publishing, spoke out against the book, saying Julie lied when she said he had given her permission to publish the book, and at a later interview had talked about how being thrown out of the house only worsened his drug habits and made him suicidal, though he has since gotten clean and had been mending his relationship with his parents. All of this has nothing at all to do with the Canterbury Tales, but it was the only interesting thing that I could find about Jonathan Meyerson. And so we arrive here. The Canterbury Tales was a 3-part miniseries, with the first 2 parts being released in 1998 and the third being released 2 years later. However, I believe today's Oscar nomination only applies for the first episode. The Canterbury Tales themselves were written by Geoffrey Chaucer in the late 14th century about a group of travelers taking a pilgrimage to the shrine of St. Thomas Becket at Canterbury Cathedral, telling each other stories along the way. In the film, we hear 3 tales. First, the nun's priest tells of a rooster named Chanticleer and his harem of hens on the farm. He tells his best hen that he dreamed of a big dog, and she dismisses the dream as nonsense while he wants to take it seriously. Chanticleer is then attacked by a fox on the same day. Next is a knight's tale. He talks of 2 soldiers of Thebes captured during a war against Athens. 2 of them spot an Athenian girl named Emily and both fall in love with her. The first is released and sent back to Thebes, but returns to Athens in disguise and becomes one of Emily's pages. The second, years later, escapes prison, and the 2 begin fighting. Suddenly, they are found by the Theban king, and they explain their situation. The king says that in a year, the 2 men will gather an army of 100 soldiers, and whoever wins will get Emily's hand in marriage, despite her own wishes. The first man prays for victory, the second prays for marriage to Emily, and both are granted their wish. Lastly, the wife of Bath tells about a knight of King Arthur's court who is caught raping a young woman. Arthur lets Guinevere pass judgment. She gives the knight a trial. He is given 1 year to learn what women most desire, and failure to give the right answer means death. He asks around, seemingly only asking men, and he is given many different answers. But he meets an old woman who promises to give him the answer if he promises to do the next thing she asks of him. He agrees and learns that women desire sovereignty over husband and lover. This satisfies Guinevere, and the knight goes free. Suddenly, the old woman bursts out from the crowd, reveals her part, and asks the knight to take her as his wife. He is utterly repulsed, but honors the oath he swore to and does as she requests. The Canterbury Tales also won the BAFTA for Best Animated Short, as well as Emmys for Best Achievement in Animation, being given to Joanna Quinn, Les Mills, and Ashley Potter. So, first off, I really like this one. I think, like, making an adaptation to Canterbury Tales is really hard. First off, just because it's something that is meant to be read as just like from I don't know much about it. Most of what I know just now is just from researching it heavily. Like I spent probably at least a whole hour, maybe 2, just reading on the Canterbury Tales like as a text, just figuring out like what I can about them for no reason really, but just for fun. And so it's like it really is just meant to be just these series of tales. It's like it's not really meant to be read as like a coherent story, especially since we it's unfinished really. Like there's only
Yeah.
25 tales, and it's like in the prologue, like Chaucer is stating that it's like oh, it's like everybody's going to be telling two tales, two on the way, or everybody's going to be telling four tales, two on the way there, two on the way back, totaling to 120 tales, but we only ever get 25 of them. And it's just like, so it's not really meant to be a whole story. So to make this mini series at all, just to make it so that they are telling stories on the way there and on the way back, is a really strange thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a really curious way to do it. But this short here really just does, like, first of all, it's the first part of a 3-part miniseries. It feels very much like that. It feels like we're only watching a part of it. And I just want to say that I only watched the first episode, and Isaac here watched all 3 episodes because he's an overachiever. Um, but yes. So just for this episode, like of the 3 tales plus the little in between segments, I had a good time with it. And it's just like, and I'm going to try and just break down my thoughts on each of the 3 segments. So it's like the first one about the rooster. I like the animation style in it. I thought it was really gorgeous. I like the little, it's almost like trying to be cutout style, or kind of like a, I don't think it's an illuminated manuscript that's trying to be like, but something like in that similar vein. And but it's just like, it's a really well animated, though I don't really care for the story about this fucking horny ass rooster and like the dog or whatever. And it's like there's this
Can we
stuff.
talk about firstly how horny the Canterbury tales are? I was shocked at how horny these.
Oh yeah, these things are so horny. It's just like these are
Like each episode gets progressively hornier. It's crazy. Like
and like that's part of why these stories became so popular. It's just because they were so frank and talked about like real issues and weren't trying to be, they weren't biblical or whatever.
they
It's like
were not. Oh my god.
yeah, and it's like just of the 3 tales today, it's just like like we have a fucking rooster that has a harem of hens. We have these 2 men fighting over who gets to fuck a woman, and then we have a film about rape, and then it's just like, so yeah, things get, there's a lot of talk about like sex and whatever, and
Yeah.
a lot about like gender roles too.
Yeah, no, that's when I was in school, I remember so like this was in technically a junior English class, but I got tickets to sophomore because I was an overachiever. But I remember we like briefly talked about the Canterbury Tales, and we only read, I can't remember who it was, and they actually animated this in one of the episodes. But it was a story about like 3 guys who are like drunk as hell and they go off to kill death, and then TLDR, they accidentally all end up killing each other. And I remember reading that one in school, because that was always like kind of my impression of it. And then when I was watching this, I was like, oh my God, no wonder I read that one, because that was the by far the least horny of all these stories.
It's the most safe for school one. uh, but yeah, let's go take these one by one. So
Yeah.
let's start with the nun's priest story, the one about the rooster. Who the First off, I just want to like, they introduce like the widow at the start of it, who the widow who owns the farm. And it's like, you go into it thinking it's like, oh, this is going to be about the widow, but then it's like
Right.
it just goes
It's not.
deeper into the lore about the rooster, and then eventually we're just seeing the talking rooster talk to his fucking hen, and it's just like, it's just like, I was kind of disappointed by that. It's like I was like into the idea of like following, like seeing like what this widow gets up to, but no, it's just a talking chicken, and it's just
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was my thing too, was like, okay, if you want to be about the chickens, that's fine. But I thought like surely the moral of the story is gonna relate back to the old woman and how like this stupid ass rooster is like jeopardizing like the one thing worth anything to this poor old woman. And they're just like, no, fuck the widow. She has nothing to do with this story anymore.
it's just background detail, just setting up the mood of the story, and it's like the eventual moral of the story, at least from the nun's priest perspective, is just that like women don't take you seriously or whatever. And it's like and when it goes back to like the framing device, it's just like the nun's priest is like, like, oh, the chicken thinks that like women are useless, but not me. I love women.
Yeah, he's like, not all men. I'm not men. I love women personally. That's why I surround myself with nuns all day.
I'm a son of a mother. I'm a mother of a son, nephew of a women aunt.
Yeah, one thing with the Canterbury Tales, just in general, I mean, the reason why it's still such a well-known text is obviously because of how important it is just in English literature, period. But also like it is really a fascinating look into like that era's view on gender and class.
Hmm.
And like all of these stories, obviously there's like that sex aspect to them, but a lot of them are all of them are also very interested in the question of gender roles, even if they don't necessarily explicitly comment on it. Like it's there, it's heavy.
Hmm. I'm curious, like in the other two episodes, like do the stories also so like in this one, the three stories all kind of follow the same theme about like the view of women in society and just like the differing views of like gender roles and things like that. In the other episodes, like one, do they also focus on like gender and gender roles and things like that? Or at the very least, do they have like those common themes flowing through the stories in their individual episodes?
Yes, absolutely. The only one that like is kind of the outcast is when I mentioned earlier about the three guys that went to go kill Death because it's about three drunk guys trying to kill Death. So there's
Hmm.
nothing horny in it. Um, but yeah, all of them, all the other ones are about it. And one of the ones I particularly liked because of how horny and insane it was this one where it was like a this old guy, he's old and he's like, I want to get married and have like a wife and have a kid. So he marries this like teenage girl. Like they say she's not even 20 yet. And he's this old guy and she is like 19 or whatever. And so she starts like fucking the page. And it's like I think the wife of Pluto is on her side. And so she like makes the husband blind so he can't see her like fucking like her boy toy. And but then Pluto gets mad about it, so he like cures his blindness, and then like he can see his wife fucking the page in a pear. I think it was a pear tree. They were literally in a pear tree having sex. And then Pluto's wife is like, "Bitch, no!" And so then she like basically helps the wife lie her way out of it.
Hmm.
And the wife is like, "Oh, see, I had to go up in this pear tree and wrestle with the man to cure your blindness, and now you're no longer blind, so you're welcome." And then the story ends, and it's like she gives the husband a son, and he's just happy, and she keeps fucking the page.
Wow. That so kind of off topic, but also on topic what you were talking about. There is a nominee in this category in the late 60s. That's called The Magic Pear Tree. And it's about like how like a person in the pear tree it's like this guy comes to fuck the king's wife or whatever. It's like they're walking around the garden, they go find this pear tree, and it's just like the guy climbs the pear tree. And it's like, oh my God, when I'm up in this pear tree, it looks like you're fucking your wife right in front of me. Yeah, it's like, no, you come up the pear tree. It's magic. It's like when you come up here, it'll look like I'm fucking your wife. It's like, and that's the joke of it. But it's just like it. I just realized it's like it's probably inspired by that story then.
Probably, yeah. I do really appreciate. I'm not like well read on medieval literature or anything, but from what I have read, it's all extremely horny, and I do deeply appreciate how horny it is and how funny it is.
Mhm. Yeah, it's something that needs to be like really understood, but just people in general. It's like people forget that things are horny in the past.
I
It's just
know.
like it's always a surprising thing.
Yeah, the Victorians kind of ruined it for everyone. Like things were like substantially hornier before they took over everything.
Mhm. Yeah, but slowly we are taking it back. We are making things horny again.
Yes. Hashtag make things horny again.
Mhm. Exactly. Like if there was a presidential candidate that ran on that platform, I would vote for them.
Yeah, instant vote.
Probably. Uh, yeah, let's get back to the short at hand, and let's move
Yes.
on to the second tale, which is the Knight's Tale. Two soldiers from Thebes, and all that. And first, I want to say that I first the animation. This is the most simplistic of the three
Yes.
animation styles. But at the same time, I think it does like at least work for what it's trying to do. Uh, and I do really like the way the gods are animated, and
Yeah,
where it's
no,
just
the gods are really fun. I like the way that the gods are animated too.
mhm. But they don't have that much of a they don't get that much screen time, but still, it's fun when we see them. And I also do really like the ending of it, where it's just like it's a fun little like ironic ending where it's
Yeah.
like one of them wishes is to win, one of them wishes to marry Emily. Emily wishes to not marry anyone, but the god's like, fuck you, you don't get your wish. But and then it's just like the one knight wins, but he still dies, and so the other one gets to marry her anyway. And it's just like yeah, it's a fun little story.
Yeah, the this is definitely the most simplistic of the three stories. And even of the little in between bits too, right? Because I feel like stop motion's a pretty high effort like
Yeah, oh yeah.
animation style. So and the stop motion in between sections I thought was pretty good. I wrote that down that I like the stop motion.
Hmm.
But the Knight's Tale, my notes on that, literally wrote F, all the feminist critique that could be made. That's what I wrote. F as in like pressing
Press
F
F
for
to pay
X.
respects. Like, rip, they didn't do any fucking critique on this one. Yeah, like yeah, that was actually disappointing about it because it's like it does like mention Emily at parts, but then it's just like it mentions how she doesn't really want this or anything, but it doesn't do anything with it. It's just like, oh well, fuck you. Oh,
Yeah,
and
it's
it's
just like,
like,
yeah, I got married.
but then again, it's just like this story is meant to set up the next story, which is a lot more about like women's desires and all that. So it's
Yeah,
like,
the next one is my favorite.
yeah. Uh, but yeah, it's like, and that's one of the things I do appreciate about like just the Canterbury tales in general. It's like the stories aren't meant to just be like random stories. They're supposed to also tell you about the person who's telling them. They're
Yes.
meant to inform that as well. It's like that's a really interesting aspect that I really enjoy. Hey,
Yeah,
I just
that's
wish Chaucer got to finish the tale since like I wish they got to go to Canterbury and back. But
I know, like with the way Chaucer writes, is one thing about the Canterbury Tales is like an animated series that a lot of the interesting bits from it just kind of come from Chaucer himself, like the
mhm,
context of Chaucer. Um, and like for kind of we're saying earlier about people like people being horny, I think people really tend to do medieval people to service and act like they're really stupid and have like no thoughts or anything.
mhm,
But like what Chaucer's writing, even if they're just like these little stories, does demonstrate, a really good amount of like awareness of, like gender roles, of class roles, of how society works and functions, and it's an interesting academic text for that reason, or academic like study, I should say. So yeah, people are just like, oh, they're goofy little tales. Like, no, like you're saying that each story tells something about the character telling the story as well. Like the knight is the person who told that story about Emily and the two friends of thieves or whatever. That
mhm.
relates back to him being a knight, and
Yeah.
he's the hero. He gets the maiden or whatever.
Mhm. There was one interesting bit like about how the order of the stories was very particular. It's like in the original text, it's like the night story is the first one. And I think right after that is it's either like the Miller or the Reeve or something like that. And it's like it's meant to really juxtapose how it's like, oh, the night starts off because they imagine they're going to be telling these stories in order of class. So it's like the knight is the highest class one, so he gets to tell the first story, but then it's just like it goes immediately to the guy who's like the lowest class one, and
Right.
just to like just like twist that on its head and be like, nah, it's like we are all equal here. Here it's like we get to tell these fucking stories, is whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But even though they changed the order for the animation stuff, obviously, I do like them putting the wife of Bath right after the knight.
yes,
That was a good move, I think.
and let's get to the wife of Bath story because like like you said, this is your favorite story. This is my favorite story of the three. And Joanna Quinn directs this segment, and I love her work. I watched her in her last nomination. I went and watched like all her short films. She's amazing. It's like all her films are about like feminism and women and like women taking their taking back and whatever. her. It's and so this is just like right in line for her, and it is so. I love the old woman. I love her. She is a queen. She fucks over this man. Oh, no, she doesn't fuck him over. She helps him,
She
and
helps him, yeah.
and eventually makes him a better person by forcing him into fealty, which is great. Slay, girl boss.
She is a girl boss, honestly. Wife of Bath is also kind of a girl boss.
Oh yeah.
Because the Wife of Bath, for people who aren't familiar with Canterbury Tales, like I looked at this up, and apparently she gets a really long intro section, and this is like
Mhm.
actually one of the most commonly like studied things about the Canterbury Tales, because it's just like, oh, the Wife of Bath has been married like 5 times, and she's such a girl boss, and she doesn't give a fuck about her husbands.
Mhm. Yeah, it's about like her whole presence is like one of the biggest like feminist readings about like that's most explicitly about like the generals at the time, and it's like her like the fact that she got married 5 times is meant to be like a call out how it's just like how why is it that like men are allowed to get all these different wives but when a woman does it it's suddenly frowned upon. It's like the Joker meme anyway, but it's like but it's just like but yeah, she is just such a girl boss. And also I love the way she's animated. Like I love her character design in the main section in the framing device. Like it's just like I love how she looks. But then
It,
in
sorry.
no, you go ahead. I think I was pretty much
I
done.
was just gonna say that like the animation style for this one is the most unique by far.
Hmm.
And I don't know how to explain like how she did it. It just reminds me a lot of that one short they used to play on Nickelodeon all the time of like the hands painting themselves, if that makes any sense. I can't remember.
I think I know which one you're talking about. Like or at least I know of similar ones. But yeah, where it's like the hands create themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know. It's like I don't think it's watercolors, but like, it kind of has that sort of dreamy quality to it. It's not, hard
Yeah.
line.
Yeah,
It's not like
Joanna
fluid.
yeah, Joanna Quinn is like does all her throughout her whole career. She's been doing like a hand drawn animation, hand like pen. I think it's all pencils, or maybe
Yeah.
I'm not totally certain, but I think it's pencils. Well, but yeah, she has this very distinct art style that is so beautiful, but also like she finds a way to make everything like intentionally she makes her characters like very real and kind of grotesque it's got times, and it's just like it's very interesting to watch at the very least, and it's just like I really enjoy when I watch her films. It's just like it was very fun going through all of them. There's this one that's set at a wedding, and it's like there's this dog that keeps shitting. It's great. But yeah, Wife of Bath. I just
Yeah.
I, I think one of my favorite parts of this is the character designs for each of them. Like first of all, the main knight is drawn as like he's meant to look kind of attractive, but also he looks like a piece of shit. Like he has the most
Yeah.
punchable face. Like the old woman is drawn so like exaggeratedly to make it clear like this is someone that the knight would be repulsed by. Right? And then it's like I love the way like Guinevere is drawn. Like she is so
Yeah.
gorgeous. Is and just all the different characters, they have such distinct designs and it just works so well.
Yeah. And it's again, it's like definitely by far the most uniquely animated of all of them. Like it just looks the most different. And again, like the way she draws just kind of lends this like dreamy quality to it. And yeah, the character design was a really good too. Like the old woman, like you can't forget what she looks like. She's very distinct. Like she's very distinct. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the story itself was also extremely interesting and just like its message. I mean, the ending could be like, it wasn't a good feminist ending, but I mean, it's still interesting nonetheless. That the whole story was just like, man, you have to listen to women.
Yeah. I do really like that ending actually, where it's just like where it's like so after the old woman like takes her has her wish, it's like makes the knight marry him. It's like he's like, oh, you're so ugly. I don't want to be married to you anymore. And it's like, well, if you actually listen to me, I can make this a whole lot better for you. Who, but then it's like And it's like once the night finally like so like she told him exactly what women want. They want like sovereignty over their husbands or whatever. And it's just like and it's like and so the first part is about him like hearing the message, like just so that he can tell it. But this epilogue or whatever, the last part of it is about him actually learning what that means. And like, yes, it's like it's only when he like it turns out that she can like shapeshift or whatever. And so like once he finally like gives her the sovereignty, it's just like she becomes this beautiful woman. They have sex together. And although it's like I think if I remember correctly, it's like there is also a point where it's like she turns back into like an old woman. It's like they're and he still like loves
Yes, yeah,
her or
yeah, yeah.
whatever. Or
And I
so
think it
it's like
was Joanna Quinn actually added that part. So I looked it up to see if that was in the story, and it didn't seem like it was. But yeah, because it was like she said, "Would you rather be with me and I'm faithful for you to like forever, and I listen to you, or do you want me to be this beautiful, hot young thing and I'm always like fucking around with other guys?" And he was like, "I don't care. You do ever it's what's good for you." And she's like, "Congratulations, you learned the lesson." And then she becomes this beautiful woman that he can have sex with. But like you
yay.
said, Joanna Quinn kind of added that scene at the very end where she shapeshifts back. So yeah, I think she actually improved upon the ending because
Yeah.
it's like
uh yeah, this is just a really good short film. Like definitely or really good segment of the short film that was actually a mini series. And but overall, this was just a good short film. And it's like also we can move on to like just the framing device as a whole, like where it talks to all uh the different people on the journey, whatever. And it's like I went into the I read the prologue like as I was watching the beginning of this, like just to see like how close it like follows the actual text of Chaucer or how much is just like written for it. And I realized, oh yeah, this is not really the text of Chaucer because the actual prologue spends so long introducing every single
yeah.
character. And it's just like, Jesus Christ, how long is this? But oh my God. But yeah, it gets the gist of Chaucer though. It tells like the different parts of it, like it, and the short does make sure to set up like the whole premise of it, where everybody tells two stories, and and once they get back, the host of the thing will pick a winner and whatever. But yeah, I do really just enjoy this stop motion animation. I think it's really engaging, and there's some good like lines and stuff when it's like setting
Yeah.
up everything, and it's like when like the in between segments between the stories, it's like it's good. It definitely does its job well.
I thought the voice acting was good too. I like the voice acting.
There's a lot of big names in this. Like I don't have the list with me right now, but
Yeah,
I
there's a bunch of like random like British celebrities and
like let me get to the IMDb page. Because there's like a lot.
yeah,
Let's
this movie is extremely like high school English class core, you
mhm.
know.
Yeah, we've got Bill Nye, Imelda Staunton, Tom Baker, Sean Bean, Bernard Cribbins, just a whole lot of fucking people. Richard Griffiths. It's like, yeah, and I guess they do need a voice for, everyone, not just the people in the shorts, but just like everyone.
I'm just
David,
obsessed with
oh,
how
David Bradley's in this too. Love
oh
him.
really? I'm just obsessed with how the UK, every time they like make something, it's like they only have the same 30 actors in the whole country, and so they're in everything all the time.
Oh yeah, it makes sense. It's also funny just how like yeah, it's just like people and like whenever like people make like uh you like things based in like other countries but are still told in English, they just give everyone British accents anyway. So
Yeah. It's like, oh, we just need someone who speaks English. Okay, British man, get over here.
like that's always the funniest thing when it's like when it's a French movie or it's set in France but everybody still talks in British accents or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yes, I know what you're talking about. Yes. Oh my God. I'm trying to think what I was watching recently, like a while ago, where that happened, and it was so like distracting and funny to me. I'm trying to remember what it was. I feel like it was something either like German or Russian. I can't remember. It was just like, why do they have British accents?
I I love this movie, but it's like it's one of the weirdest parts about Les Miserables. It's just
Yeah,
both as like a stage production and as the film. It's just like it's always just like everybody just has British accents, even though like this is French, and it's like the only person who has a French accent is the comic relief hotel owner. It's just like,
yeah. Like the one goofy guy is the one who speaks in a French accent.
but everyone should be the goofy guy that nobody takes seriously.
They're all miserable because they're French. That's really the
Exactly, exactly. Like who wouldn't be? But uh anything else you'd like to say about Canterbury Tales? Any thoughts on any of the stories or anything?
No, I get why the wife of Bath apparently is such a popular academic thing. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, that's a lot going on in that one. I'm a fan of that one.
Like thank you, Chaucer, for giving the wife of Bath so much cunt to slay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we'll move on to our third nominee, which is Jolly Roger, directed by Mark Baker. This is Baker's third and final nomination, previously being nominated for The Hill Farm and The Village. Unlike the rural settings of his last two films, we find ourselves now on the high seas. The short has its origins in an unproduced half-hour special Baker was developing, but the BBC was only interested in shorter material, so they reworked it into this. With this film, Baker wanted to experiment using digital tools to help with the animation process. As the film is set on the ocean, there would be a lot of pain in coloring the ocean, as well as animating the ships bobbing up and down in in the ocean with the passengers on board in sync with it. So the process they adapted was to do all the line drawings and backgrounds and character animations on paper, scan everything into the computer, and digitally color everything with Photoshop while using Amiga software for the animation. The computer tools made it a lot easier for them to keep consistent movements in scenes, not just by being able to have the ship and characters all move in sync with one another, but also make it easier for continuity, keeping consistent movements between the cuts. After this film, Mark Baker would end up creating was easily his most well-known work, Peppa Pig. The series came from a desire to make children's show that starred a girl character who wasn't a princess or magical or anything, just a normal girl that kids could relate to, and also a pig. They also would wanted to portray a whole family dynamic rather than just one character, so that the world felt more full and alive. For the voice of Peppa Pig, Baker enlisted 3-year-old Lily Snowden Fine, who was the daughter of Alison Snowden and David Fine, a previous Oscar winners in this category, and of course friends of Mark Baker. The show was an instant success, and after first airing in 2004, is still on to this day and is one of the most popular children's shows in history, with nearly 400 episodes, 5 specials, a movie, books, video games, and 5 theme parks around the world. The show is so popular that it spawned what's called the Peppa Pig effect, where children watch the show so much that they start to speak in British accents. Mark Baker, with Astley Baker Davies Production Company, has also made the shows The Big Nights and Ben and Holly's Little Kingdom, but of course neither were anywhere near as successful as Peppa Pig. Nowadays, Baker seems to be resting on his laurels. I doubt he would ever need to work again. Uh, I think he would watch Oppenheimer and understand a lot about how he felt. Going back to Jolly Roger, the short starts with pirates raiding a ship with loads of treasure and rum aboard and sending its owner overboard. She is rescued by a dinky ship with only a big guy and a little guy aboard, who also happen to have stolen her treasure chest back from the pirates. Shouts about revenge, full sail, attack, and aye aye, Captain, ensue. Isaac, what did you think of Jolly Roger?
Okay, the short film is very simple. Like, it's not deep or profound at all, but I really liked it. Like, I spent the whole time smiling. It was just really fun and goofy. I don't know. I really liked it.
Yeah, it is very charming. Like this is and I love how everybody pretty much just shouts the same lines over and over
I
again.
know it's like the same 3 lines the whole film.
And I remember reading how the guy who voices the captain of the littlest ship, he pretty much just shouts full sail the whole time.
Yeah.
And the voice actor was getting a little pissed off at Mark Baker for making him shout so much. I was just shout the same line for like 2 hours.
What you just shout? Okay, they weren't like repeating it. They were just having him shout it over and over.
It's like because he had to shout it in like different intonations or whatever because
That's
for the
so
different scenes.
funny. Oh my
So he
God.
just had to shout it over and over again. But yeah, but my favorite character is of course like the woman who gets thrown off the first ship because
Our French queen.
she's constantly just shouting revenge. Or I
Revenge.
and I love her one little the closest thing to a monologue we get in this where she shouts donkey, smelly pig,
Yeah.
poisson, baboon, stupid insect, donkey. Hee-haw.
Yeah, I thought this one was a lot of fun. I also really liked the sound design in this one. Like
Mhm,
the ship creaking noises were really good. I don't know if you noticed that, but I was like, yeah,
mhm.
this is a very like pleasing sound to me. I really like the
Yeah,
ship.
it's a very well made short film in terms of like the like just the sound design, the animation, and everything. It's a very charming short. Right. I did find it a little bit boring at times though. Like
Yeah,
it goes on
yeah.
for 15 minutes, which is a bit long for a short film, especially one that's like as simple as this one is. And I thought the ending was a little unsatisfying because it just ends with both the ships sinking and they're just kind of there in the water together. And it's just like,
Yeah, so
okay.
they forgot how to like resolve the film. They're just like,
Mhm.
okay, we're done now, I guess. Like
They just are they just dead now? Are they just going to die?
I guess so.
Guess so. It's no other real option for them.
I also when you started watching it, like I'm watching it and I'm like, why does this look so familiar to me? And like, oh my God, this is literally just a Peppa Pig style. Like it's very
Oh
clear
yeah.
that he made like both these things.
Mhm. Like in his other films, especially since they are hand drawn rather than like computer animated, it's like it it's a lot less clear, but still like his simplistic style is still there, and it's like it's real, but it is really here when it's like you really start to realize like, oh yeah, this is the guy who makes Peppa Pig, and it's just like,
Yeah.
and, and speaking of like how like it's computer animated, it's like I I'm kind of like off and on when it comes to like this like computer animated style and whatever. It's like because it can be used really well. It's like like especially like the flash animation because it's like it essentially just becomes like cutout animation where it's like you take these figures with like these different moving parts or whatever and just like arrange them
Mhm.
whatever. But it's just like they just doing that but in a computer. But it's like I feel like so few animators or maybe like studios or whatever, whoever's to blame. So few ever try to make it look good. It's just like it's
Yeah.
like especially in like modern animation, like especially modern adult animation, where it's like shit
Oh
like
my
BoJack
God, yeah.
Horseman and like Big Mouth and things like that. It's
So
just
ugly though.
I hate the way those things move. They are so it's like it becomes impossible to watch them just because I hate the way the characters are animated. It's
Yeah, my
so ugly.
favorite like cartoon growing up was actually Arthur. It's a tie between Arthur and SpongeBob, but
Oh yeah.
I remember in like Arthur, at some point they switched to, like more of a computer animation style,
Mhm.
or they did something different, but it
Yeah,
was like not the way they used to do it. And
they
I
went
was
to
like, I
Flash animation.
yeah, it's Flash. Okay, I was like, I hate this. I hate the way this looks. This is wrong.
It's yeah, it's so bad. And it's like I think like nowadays, like some animation studios are really finally understanding like how to make it look good while still being like used in the computer that way. But it's still just so distracting. And it's
It
just
is like I really do miss, old 2D animation where people were like really focused on making things look really fluid, but it was all,
Mhm,
done by hand or definitely not done by computers. And I feel like with CGI and 3D animation and all that, now we've like kind of lost this art form of like 2D animation that looks really good and
mhm.
beautiful and can do things that 3D animation just can't do because it's not the same thing.
Yeah, it's just like animation is just so expensive, which is why so few companies really want to try and invest in like making more of it. And it's like it's only when it is like computer animation that they find it to be profitable or whatever.
It's just such a bummer. Like there's just certain aspects of 2D animation that there's so like, it's so unique to 2D animation. You just can't replicate it in other forms.
Hmm.
So yeah, I get like cost wise, people don't do it, but it's like this sucks. Go back to doing it, please. Like
Exactly.
a little treat, a little treat for me.
And that actually reminds me, so like at the time of this recording, there's a lot of discourse online about the upcoming movie Wish by Disney and how it's like it is a 3D animated film, but they add this like filter over that's meant to make it look like kind of watercolory or things like that. And there's some criticism about it that like it just kind of looks bad. Like the effect just does not work for what it's trying to do. And it's just like and I remember somebody was saying like how it's like I think I remember reading it's like they originally wanted to do make this like 2D in honor of like the 100 years, but then they changed it to 3D just because and just tried to put
Oh,
an effect over it. And it's like the reason they can't do a 2D animated movie is because they fired so many of their 2D animators. Not everyone, but there's only so few of them left that they literally can't make a 2D feature film
oh my!
anymore because they don't have enough people.
Sorry, that was my computer. I was looking up the trailer to see what it looks like. That
Oh
was
yeah.
my bad.
What do you think?
I'm looking at it right now. Oh my God, yeah, that's so disappointing. They fired all their 2D animators. Yeah, I
Hmm.
don't like the way this looks. To just do 2D. I don't know. It just seems like lazy. And Disney is like literally one of the I don't know how much money it has, but it's definitely, one of the most profitable businesses on earth. So it's like you guys can absolutely afford to have like 2D animators do this.
Hmm. Like it's just so like it's so crazy that they would just get rid of 2D animation like completely. Yeah, it's just like
Oh
because
God, sorry, I'm seeing her move, and yeah, this looks terrible. Holy fuck,
uh now
bruh.
you know
I
how it
hate
felt.
this.
Like I've seen that trailer so many times in theaters, or like one of the trailers at least, and it's just like, God, it does not look good. It's just like I'm hoping just that like maybe like when the film actually comes out or whatever, it'll look a little bit better, but it just doesn't right
It
now.
reminds me of like that motion blur smooth thing that Tom Cruise tells you to turn off on your TV.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what it
motion
looks like.
smoothing.
Emotion smoothing, that's what's called. That's what it looks like to me.
I like how you brought Tom Cruise into this.
Yeah, it always comes back to Tom Cruise, okay?
Like that's your favorite Tom Cruise movie, that one video he did with Christopher
Yeah,
McQuarrie or
that's
whatever.
his best movie ever is telling you to turn off your emotions.
I wonder where that ranks in the Patrick Willems hair ranking.
Yeah, we need to ask him.
I'll add him on Twitter. Oh, wait, I'm
Yeah.
private right now. Never mind. I'll add him with the podcast account.
Important information, Patrick, please.
Uh, but yeah, going back to Jolly Roger, we got a bit off track there,
Yeah, sorry
but
guys.
that's okay. It's okay. Um, but then again, actually, now that I'm back here, I'm thinking like, what else is there to really talk about? Because
There's
there's
really not much. Like it's just a cute short, makes me smile. It feels like something I would see on Nickelodeon. Um,
well,
and
yeah,
that's all there really is. Like
because the guy went to Nickelodeon after
yeah.
this. Uh, and something that is interesting is just like um where animators end up. Like as I make this podcast and as I like look up like the careers of these people, well, it's just kind of interesting seeing like the different like trends of people like after they get their Oscar nomination, like what did they do with their career? And it's like a lot of people do end up just going into like children's media or whatever. It's like before it was like a lot of people making stuff for Sesame Street, and like nowadays I think we're seeing more people who are going to like Nick Jr. to Disney Jr. just like doing different like animated shows for television or whatever. It's just like it's a
Yeah.
very interesting thing to track.
This category is an interesting one too, because I was thinking about this a while ago, but just how like you could win an Oscar for like best animated short, and nobody on earth would fucking know who you are. And so you could be like in the grocery store and be like, "Hey, I have an Oscar, by the way," and like, who would believe you? You know?
Now I'm just imagining like putting the Oscar in like the little baby area that they have in like the shopping carts or whatever, just
Yeah.
pushing it around with you, just so people know.
Yeah, it's like, hey, by the way, I won an Oscar once.
Uh, but but yeah, it's like, and that is actually one of the things I do love about this category, and like just the short film categories in general, because like out of all the categories, like these are probably the ones that like the people who win there are probably not going to be up there ever again. They're not going to have that kind of
Right.
platform ever again, like at the Academy Awards. So it's like just for those few like 45 seconds or whatever, they get the whole world to see them. Just like they get to do whatever the fuck they want, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's what the human experience is all about, baby. See, I don't want to be like a world renowned celebrity. I think it'd be nice to be like, hey, I won an Oscar, and now nobody knows who I am, and I can live my life in peace.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. It's like the best thing, like the best kind of famous to be is not like world famous. It's just big in Japan is what you get what you're going for.
Yeah. That's how Tom Cruise is doing it. He's real popular in Japan.
But yeah, I think we've said enough about Jolly Rogers, so we are
I
going
will
to
say, sorry, one more thing.
oh,
Sorry.
go
Going back
ahead,
to
go
Tom
ahead.
Waits. Tom Waits also has a song called "Big in Japan," so there's our second tie-in.
I was thinking of him when I said that.
Okay.
Like I think I said that same thing in a tweet before. It's like I think I was inspired by like looking through Tom Waits albums and or songs or whatever and seeing Big in Japan all there. It's like yeah, or maybe I was thinking about like jazz musicians, how like all of them have like a Live in Japan album. Um,
Yeah, Japan loves jazz music.
mhm. But yes, let's move on to our fourth nominee, which
Oh my
is
God.
More, directed by Mark Osborne. This is the first and only nomination for Osborne, as well as producer Steve Colaffer in this category. He got his start with his thesis film at Cal Arts Greener, which immediately proved to be a success for him, playing at tons of festivals and winning a tons of awards at said festivals, and got him on the radar as an animator, and got him a gig to direct a music video for the best Weird Al parody song, which is Jurassic Park parody of MacArthur Park. Osborne even got a Grammy nomination out of it. But to make today's nominee, he ended up returning to Cal Arts as a teacher just so he could have access to some of the college's resources. He only had a summer to make the whole film, and someone accidentally ended up shooting the film in IMAX, making it the first non documentary IMAX film to earn an Oscar nomination. Osborne had envisioned shooting it in 35 millimeter, but among the resources he had received at Cal Arts, he was given IMAX 70 millimeter film stock and thought might as well use that instead. And from the success of his Oscar nomination, did he get himself a job at DreamWorks. In his words from his LinkedIn page, he says he wrote and developed feature film projects, wrote notes on scripts, and gave feedback on screenings of in progress projects while he was groomed for a position as a director on a feature film. That feature film ended up being Kung Fu Panda, which garnered him another Oscar nomination for Best Animated Feature. Other things Osborne has made are the Netflix adaptation of The Little Prince. He directed a few episodes of the Nickelodeon show Action League Now. He helped Chris Martin develop the concept album Milo Xyloto, and he directed all the live action segments of SpongeBob SquarePants with Patchy the Pirate, as well as the David Hasselhoff scenes of the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, because he was friends with Steven Hillenburg in college. More recently, Osborne was developing a film adaptation of the book Escape from Hat. However, it was recently revealed the film was no longer in production. Hope he can direct another project soon. Until then, back to more. The film also features music from the band New Order, with the film being re-edited into a music video for the song Elegia. The film is set in a gray dystopia and follows a guy who by day works in a factory making happy product, his soul being crushed, but at night works on a pair of goggles. One day after being pushed to his limit at work, he finally figures out the key to his goggles and finishes them. The goggles put the world around them in a different light, making things seem happier than they are. Calling them Bliss product, the inventor is propelled into stardom, and suddenly he's the one shouting orders at the factory, and at the end realizes his own folly. So this is I'm gonna start with the positives first.
Sorry.
I I I think this is a very well animated short. I think the animation is gorgeous. I love the world design. I think it's really well done. I think it's just I really love the look and feel of this film. I love the music too. But at the same time, here we get to the bad stuff. This story is just so fucking generic. It
Oh
is
my
the
God.
most basic shit. It is just the most, oh my God. It's the kind of shit that you see posted on Facebook or whatever, or that's like, this is just so fucking deep, dude. It's like, damn, for real though. Oh my God.
It's literally I
Oh,
wrote Babby's first critique of power slash capitalism.
yeah.
Yeah, I also another pointless nitpick. I know for a fact that had I watched this short as a child, I would have had fucking nightmares over that character model. I fucking hate the main guy. He's scared. I would have been so terrified of him when I was a kid. Oh my God. Yeah, like it is well animated and like yeah, he does make this there is an atmosphere there, right? Like the atmosphere is good, but it is just like, oh my God, wow, you mean you were like happy as a kid and now you work in a factory and you're sad, and then if you like sell a product, you're in charge and you lose track of that childhood innocence. That's crazy, dog. Like
Yeah, it's just like the fucking little hole he has in his stomach, and it's just like has the fucking light coming out. It's just like what the fuck?
Teletubby asshole. Like yeah.
And it's just like it's just so funny how it's like he just fucking opens his gut hole, and it's just like and like that's what makes the glasses work or whatever, or and it's just like it's just like how, how do they distill that into a factory product then? And it's just like, do they are are they just like killing people for their gut
It's
magic or
like
whatever?
organ harvesting. Like
Yeah, it's just like God, and I, it's just so stupid. It's just oh my God. But the
yeah,
thing is, it's like
literally.
I despite how stupid it is, I think I do end up like liking it a bit just because I think it is very well animated, very well directed, very like just well put together, despite the core of it being so fucking generic and stupid.
Yeah, like I don't hate it. Like I didn't think it was a terrible short film. It was just like, you look it up and on YouTube and you watch it and you're just like, wow, I'm 14 and this is deep. And you read all the comments and all the comments like like just solidify my opinion in that way.
Oh
So the
yeah.
comments like, oh my God, this short film changed my life. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're 17 and you've never worked before. Like,
It's those comments like I sent you one of them and I'm like debating whether I even want to say it on the podcast just because it is just such so boggling. I'll say it. I'll read it out. I
say it,
found it
say it.
in my DM. So this one comment under the short. Robin Williams' life comes to mind when I watched this video. He gave out so much of his happiness to others that in the end there is none left for himself. Jesus fucking Christ, what is
Oh
wrong
God, it
with
was
you?
terrible. Like it doesn't even make sense with the fucking short film because the point of the short film was to be like, oh look, power corrupted him. Like he's in charge and he's now he can't get in touch with that childhood innocence anymore. Like Robert Williams is a whole different thing, guys. Like he wasn't like a fucking factory like owner. He was selling a product. Like he was an actor.
Yeah, it's just so fucking like disgusting to like try and relate this to a real fucking guy who fucking killed himself. And it's just like,
And the
what's wrong with you?
circumstances, yeah, and the circumstances of his death wasn't because of his own doing or anything. Like, I don't know if you read that article that his wife wrote, about his last months alive. Did you read that article at all?
I I don't I'm not sure if I read that article, but I do know that it's like it was because his like mental like it wasn't like really wasn't depression or anything. It was just like he had like some kind of dementia or something. And it's just
Yeah,
like it
he
was.
had like undiagnosed Lewy bodies disease, and so he like literally had dementia, and that was impacting like his entire existence pretty severely, obviously.
Mhm.
And so that's why he died. Like that's why he killed himself. So yeah, I hate the whole like, oh God, the tragic comedian who makes everyone else laugh, but he can't make himself laugh. Like guys, grow up. Like
But doctor, I am more.
stop calling it more too. Like come on,
That
boo, boo.
it's like it doesn't. It barely even works as a title for this. It's like it just like then again, it's just so generic that it has to have a generic title too. And
Yeah, again, it's very. I'm 14. This is deep.
it's like it's just one step above those fucking like everybody's obsessed with their phones videos. But then
Yes,
again,
literally.
they didn't have phone like smartphones when this was made. So maybe he would have made that if this was back in the day.
Yeah, you saying like it's something you see on Facebook is so true. Like I can absolutely see this. And like you're scrolling through Facebook one night and you see like one of those recommended videos and it's like that in like a really poorly cropped aspect ratio. And then it's like so true, crying emoji, heartbreak emoji, crying emoji. It has like 350,000 heart reacts and people are like, oh my God, yeah, you're so right. Being an adult sucks.
Hmm. Yeah, it's just like maybe the ones who were truly happy are the ones who didn't watch this.
I think that's true.
I'm
True.
just kidding. It's like the like I keep wanting to like emphasize like I don't hate this film. I think there is plenty like oh what's his name again? Mark Osborne. He definitely has like talent as like an animator, or but it's just like it. I really wish he picked something better to animate.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, I do too. Because like I okay, so I never did watch Kung Fu Panda beginning to end, even though it came out when I was definitely in that age range. But I do remember watching parts of it, and from what I remember, like Kung Fu Panda was good. Like like a
uh,
kids movie.
it, actually, if we're going back into his career, I do want to talk about Action League now for a little bit. Because
Okay,
like, do you know what that is?
I've heard of it, but I don't
Like,
really know what.
so it was this segment on like Kablam, I think that's what the show's called, that eventually became its own little series. And what it essentially is just like these different action figures, just like solving this different crimes, but it just ends up like the different action figures like being destroyed or whatever at the end of each episode. Oh, and it's just like, and it was such like I had no idea what it was when I was watching it on Nickelodeon as a kid because it was always just like these random little like in between segments between different episodes or between different shows. It's like so you can never like figure out when it was going to air or whatever. At least I couldn't as a kid. And it's just like it was something I didn't even really know it was real. Like
Wait, yeah, I looked up photos of it. It has come back. Like I have vague memories of these little shorts on
yeah,
Nickelodeon now.
and it's just like it was just like I only I didn't know if like I was like these things were real or if I was just imagining them. It's only when they came on, it's like, oh my God, I remember this. This is actually a thing. And it's just like, and then it would disappear again. And it's just like, damn. It's just like,
Oh my God, yeah, I do remember these now. Wow, I totally forgot about these.
but yeah, they were so fun. I really loved them. I should really like go back and like watch the whole series or whatever.
Yeah, man, I forgot about these. I do remember this now that I'm looking at it.
Hmm. But yeah.
Yeah, better than more for sure.
Yes. Where is Action League Now's Oscar nomination?
Yeah, come on.
Uh, yeah. This was another one where it's just like I thought like maybe you'd like geek out over like New Order. That seems like a band you'd like. Like
Yeah,
so
you know what? You're right. And like, I actually haven't listened to New Order that much, and that's one of my greatest shames is that I don't geek out over New Order.
damn. Everybody tear Isaac a new asshole.
My God. This kind of remind me of how for some reason, everyone who like knows me in real life just assumes I like Lord of the Rings. Like the amount of times I have people who start talking to me about Lord of the Rings, and I don't like Lord of the Rings. It's very, like, I never would tell them. I never. I'm just. I don't want to be like. Actually, I don't like Lord of the Rings. Stop talking to me about this. You know.
As in, like, you haven't like watched the movies, or you have and you just don't like them.
I watched the first one, and it took me like I this is back in middle school. I remember I watched the first one. It took me like a whole week to finish it, and then I started watching the second one. It took me a whole month to finish it, and I have never had the guts to watch the third one.
Maybe give them another shot. Like middle
Yeah,
school is
no,
a
I'm going
much
to.
different time.
Yeah, because my boyfriend really likes them, so I said, okay, I'll watch them with you again. So I'm going to one day. I just like I'm so busy that I haven't had time to like dedicate like 10 hours to watching those movies.
It God, it's fun doing like those long ass like Lord of the Rings marathons though. Like I remember one time in college, it was just like I had a Blu-ray set of like the extended editions. It's like in one day I watched the first one, watched the second one, then I went to a screening of Hunt for the Wilder People, which was just happened to be the same day, and then I watched the third one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I when I was also middle school, I was like a big Star Wars kid. And so I did watch all the Star Wars movies in one sitting once, which was insane, but I did it. So that's my closest marathon. I otherwise after a certain point, my legs start hurting and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I have to stand up and walk somewhere.
Uh yeah, it's like I like just last night, like right before I went to sleep and recorded this, I was in a 12-hour movie marathon. I watched a bunch of horror movies.
Oh my
Like,
God, that's so
yeah.
long.
Yeah. Yeah, it was in a theater. It's just like, and they made sure like that we like got to move our legs around in between movies. Like in the middle of it, like there's this like in the 90s there was like this horror aerobics music video where it's like it had these zombies dancing whatever, and we in the middle of the thing we just did it for like 2 minutes just to
That's so funny.
keep
I
our
love
blood
that.
pumping. But yeah, but going back to more because we have to talk about this. But actually, I think we're almost done here. Like, do you have any final thoughts about more?
No, just that it's not that good, but it's fine.
Yeah. All right. So move on to our fifth and final nominee, which is When Life Departs, directed by Stefan Fieldmark and Karsten Killerich. This is the first and only nomination for Feldmark and Killerich. And I'm excited for one where I finally don't have that much to say about the nominees. Feldmark and Killerich are simply two well-respected Danish animators who I believe met while animating on Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest, and then they made the short film together. They then worked together again on the film Help, I Am a Fish, also called A Fish Tale, with Kielerich only writing it while Fieldmark directed it. And since then, both men have just been making more animated films and TV shows aimed at Danish children. What a pleasant life for them both. I have no further context. When Life Departs is simply just children talking about their relationship with death, with animation over their thoughts. Isaac, what did you think of our final nominee?
This is actually the first one I watched. I don't remember why I did this order, but I started with this one. I liked it. And again, like it is very simple. Like it is just, kids talking and, they animated the kids talking basically. But I thought it was charming. I thought the animation style, I liked how it like imitated, the way a child would draw pictures. I thought it was sweet. I thought it was cute. It reminded me of It's Such a Beautiful Day, kind of.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, not just because it's about death, just kind of like the style and like the narration and stuff. But I really like this one. I thought it was pretty sweet. Starting with this and ending with Bunny was a good move on my part, I think. Like it came full circle.
Mhm. It's all about death. Uh,
Yeah, no, I thought it was cute though. I really liked it.
yeah, this is just a very simple one where it's just 9 minutes of literally just children talking, and like there's these simple line drawings that animate their different musings or whatever. And it's like it, and there is a long history of this kind of thing in this category. Like of course there's famously John and Faith Hubley, who like made so many films that was just their just animating over their children just talking about whatever, or like imagining things or whatever. And it's just like, and it continues all the way to like more modern day, where it's like Don Hertzfeld. Oh, you mentioned It's a Beautiful Day, but also like World of Tomorrow, which is just like Don Hertzfeld's niece, just like her random ramblings and making this sci-fi story out of that. And it's just like there's a lot of just taking shit the kids say and just animating it.
But they're
It-
so much fun.
yeah, they are good. It's just like it's just like there's a history of this in this category, and
Yeah,
where this
I
one
mean, just the
stands.
history of it in general too. Like
Mhm,
I remember like in 2010s when the big YouTube kind of genres of videos was like adults acting out kids stories
mhm,
and lip syncing along with like a kid talking. Um, so the
mhm.
kids are just fun. They just say like the craziest things, and you're like, "Ugh, how
Could
sweet."
say the darndest things. Uh, but yeah, this one is good. It's a good short film. It's like I was very engaged with the different stories. Is it does go for a while though. Like it is only 9 minutes, but I think like it starts to wear itself thin because it doesn't diversify itself at all. It's just one kid says this thing, this other kid says a different thing. Just everybody's different thoughts on death or whatever. Or and it's just
I
like
was interested in how they like all the kids were Scottish. I was like, why are you guys talking to Scottish?
I I guess that's just where they got the audio from. It's just how it is. But yeah, there just isn't too much to say about this. And I can't even really remember any of the specific things that the kids were saying. It's just like to comment on them.
I remember some of it. I remember like that one little girl who's talking about her baby brother who did die. That one
Oh yeah.
was pretty sad. Then the kids at one point were talking about like their conceptions of heaven and hell. I thought the heaven stuff was pretty cute though, and like the little drawing of God was cute. As like
Mhm.
this like king with a big beard who like hugs kids. I thought it was cute.
Yeah, it's just a simple, cute little short film that there's just like not too much to say, but I did end up really liking it. I just wish I had more to say about it.
Yeah. It's very self-explanatory. It's just kids talk about death, and then you go, "Oh, how sweet," and then you move on to your life.
Mhm. Yep. Move on to the endless march to, or that eternal march till death. And well, it's not eternal. Eventually we'll die. But
But
and I'm
yeah,
gonna
no, it was sweet.
I was gonna say on that note we could end that note, but if you have more to say.
No, I was just saying, no, yeah, it's a sweet short film. I recommend watching it. It's cute. That's all.
All right. And now that we've gone through and talked about the five different nominees, we will rank them all. Isaac, start us off with your number five.
'Cause I struggled here. So this is my rank and how much I liked them.
Okay.
Not necessarily how much I deserved it, but how much I liked them. So I have more as number five.
All right. My number five might be surprising. It's Jolly Roger. It's
No,
like
I kind of get that. Yeah.
this whole list was actually like really close. Like I felt it was kind of hard like really determining an order. But number five
No,
is
me
Jolly
too.
Roger.
I have the same problem with why I just kind of went with what I preferred and not like what I thought deserved to win the most.
Mhm. And it's like none of these like in my mind really feel like a winner to me. But at the same time, it's just like Jolly Roger. It's just the most simplistic. It is cute. It's fine for what it is, but it doesn't do too much for me.
Yeah.
Number four.
I put the Canterbury Tales number four. Sorry.
It's okay. Don't need to apologize to anyone. My number four is Bunny, which like I do really like the story that we have here, but at the same time, it's just like I don't know. I felt like I just didn't end up enjoying it as much as the other ones, which feels bad considering that more is above it. But yes, uh, that Bunny is my number
Obvious
four.
viewing.
Uh, what's your number three?
I put Jolly Roger as my number three.
All right. And number three is More, which I keep saying it is just so fucking stupid. But at the same time, it's just like in the moment as I was watching it, I didn't really care about how stupid it was, just because of how well it really incorporates just all the different aspects of it into really like emotionally engaging like viewing experience if the even if the story that it's actually saying is kind of vapid, and it's like I still found myself really engaged with it. Number two.
I put When Life Departs at number two.
I also put When Life Departs at number two.
Word.
Just a really good short film about like children thinking about death. It's really, really simple, but really well done. And your number one,
It's Bunny. I actually like Bunny.
Bunny, Bunny. But my number one is the Canterbury Tales. I was
Mhm.
you were very muffled right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just like how our number one and our one and four were flipped, and our two and our three and five were flipped. I think that
That's
worked.
nice. But yeah, Canterbury Tales, just three good tales with good animation. But yeah, that's it. But before we end our show, are there any final thoughts you'd like to share, Isaac, or anything you'd like to promote?
No, this is fun. I like doing this. I'm trying to think if I need to pro anything because I've been so busy in real life. uh, if you ever see some loser on Twitter posting like a 50-page long Tom Cruise essay, that's me. So hi. That's me getting my Tom Cruise word out there.
And also, I feel like this is going to come out after October, but I'm just saying it's like it's Renfield season for you. It's like that's big
It
for
is
you.
Renfield season. You're right. Oh my God, my darling baby Renfield.
Hmm. Yeah, we're recording this on October 1st, so it's just like it's a big moment for you.
It is, and I will never forget the people who made the Renfield movie for making him straight in that. Like, I was so pissed off when I learned that he was straight. Fuck you. Renfield is gay. And Tom Waits played Renfield in Bram Stoker's Dracula. So there we go again.
I forgot about that. Good for him. Oh, yeah, that is full circle. But yeah, but if that's it for today, thank you, Isaac, for coming on the show, and thank you, listener, for tuning in. This has been the short podcast about short films. Until next time, goodbye.